Today, we're going to dive into one of the most compelling and honestly, one of the most heartbreaking characters in all of epic literature, Karna from the Mahabharata. His story is just an absolute masterclass in loyalty, identity, and the devastating consequences of making impossible choices.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. You are on the brink of this world-ending war. You're ready to fight, you're ready to die for your side, and then, just moments before the first arrow flies, someone tells you that the men you've sworn to kill are your own family. This wasn't just some thought experiment. This was the impossible reality that came to define Karna's life.
So, the armies are all gathered. You can just feel the tension in the air. The world is literally holding its breath. And right then, the divine statesman, Krishna, pulls Karna aside for a conversation that is going to change everything. This moment, this is famously known as the temptation of Karna.
Krishna just lays it all out on the table. He tells Karna the secret of his birth. He's the eldest of the Pandava brothers, which makes him the rightful heir to the entire kingdom. So, path 1, it offers him everything he was ever denied, a throne, his family, and a chance to fight on the side of justice. But path 2, that's to remain with his best friend, Duryodhana, a man Karna knows is in the wrong, but to whom he owes this unbreakable debt of loyalty.
Now, to really understand why this choice is so agonizing, so gut-wrenching, we've got to go back, way back to the very beginning. Karna's entire life was shaped by rejection, and that history, that pain, it's the key to everything.
I mean, his story starts with this incredible paradox. He was born a prince, a Kshatriya warrior, literally the son of the sun god. But his mother, a young, unmarried princess named Kunti, abandoned him in a river to hide the shame. He's then found and lovingly raised by a charioteer, a Suta, and his wife. But this lower caste identity, it becomes this weapon that's used against him his entire life, a constant source of public humiliation.
And you can see this conflict play out in the very names people called him. He was Suryaputra, son of a god, but the world only saw him as Sutaputra, son of a charioteer, and that name was almost always used to mock him. You know, the one name he really cherished was Radheya, son of Radha, his adoptive mother, the woman who gave him love when his birth mother cast him away. His own identity was a constant battleground. So here you have this unbelievably talented warrior, but he's a social outcast, just desperate for a little acceptance. And into this void steps one person. And this one person is going to define the entire rest of his life.
Just picture the scene, okay? A grand tournament. Karna, who is this warrior of just extraordinary skill, steps forward to challenge the celebrated prince Arjuna. But before he can even compete, he's stopped. He is publicly ridiculed, shamed for being a mere charioteer's son, and told he has no right to fight a royal. This is his absolute most painful moment of public shame.
And then, in that exact moment of his deepest humiliation, Prince Duryodhana, who happens to be Arjuna's cousin and bitter rival, steps forward. He defies the entire assembly. Right there on the spot, he crowns Karna the king of a nearby territory, just to give him the status to challenge Arjuna. And what does he ask for in return? Just this: I want your endless friendship.
For Karna, this moment was, well, it was everything. Duryodhana didn't just give him a crown, he gave him dignity. He offered him acceptance when the entire world, including the family Karna didn't even know he had, pushed him away. This one single act forged a bond of gratitude so powerful that Karna would never, ever break it.
This friendship wasn't just built on kindness, though. It was really cemented in a powerful and ultimately destructive shared hatred.
Karna's deep resentment of Arjuna, the golden prince who had everything Karna was denied, was a perfect match for Duryodhana's own political jealousy. It's like they amplified each other's worst impulses. Their friendship quickly became a pact of vengeance against the Pandavas.
And this loyalty, it led Karna down a really dark path. I mean, at one of the epic's most shameful moments, the public humiliation and disrobing of the Pandava's wife, Draupadi, Karna isn't just a bystander, he's an active participant. He's hurling the cruelest insults, even calling her a whore, all to please his friend Duryodhana. And right here, this is where you see the tragic complexity of the man. Years later, in a quiet moment of reflection, he admits his regret. He confesses that his cruel words were spoken only to please his friend. He knew it was wrong. He was being torn apart between his own conscience and his loyalty, and in that moment, loyalty won.
So all of this brings us right back to that fateful meeting with Krishna on the edge of the battlefield.
Karna's choice isn't between a clear right and a clear wrong. Oh no, it's a battle between two completely competing duties.
So to really get it, we need to understand the concept of dharma. It's a really complex idea, but you can think of it as your righteous duty, your ethical code, your moral path in life. In ancient India, this was the code you lived by. And for Karna, two of his highest dharmas, his duty to his blood family and his duty to the friend who saved him, were now in a fight to the death.
Let's break it down. On one side, siding with the Pandavas means accepting his royal identity and fighting for cosmic justice. Seems like the right thing to do, right? But on the other side, siding with Duryodhana means honoring the identity he actually lived his whole life and upholding that sacred vow of friendship. Both paths have honor. Both paths have duty. So what do you do? What do you do when two rights make an impossible wrong?
In the end, Karna chooses his lived experience over his bloodline. He chooses personal loyalty over abstract justice. He tells Krishna that it was Radha, the charioteer's wife, who gave him a mother's love, not Kunti. And it was Duryodhana who gave him respect, not the Pandavas. He will not abandon his friend. Not now, not ever. Even if it means fighting for a cause he knows is unjust and dying for.
And that decision, well, it seals his fate. And it cements his legacy as one of literature's most profound, tragic heroes. His end is just this perfect, terrible culmination of every misfortune he ever suffered and every choice he ever made. On the battlefield, he secretly keeps a promise to his birth mother Kunti, and he spares 4 of his 5 brothers in combat. But in his final, epic duel with Arjuna, fate itself intervenes. A curse comes true, and his chariot wheel gets stuck in the mud. And as he's trying to free it, unarmed, vulnerable, Arjuna strikes him down. It was an unjust end for a man whose life was just one calamity after another. This right here is the very definition of a tragic hero. A good man, sure, flawed by pride and resentment, but ultimately a victim of circumstances far beyond his control. He was rejected by those who should have loved him, and embraced by the one person who would lead him to ruin. His life is a tragedy in the purest sense of the word. And so we're left with this question, the central, nagging question of Karna's life, that still echoes thousands of years later. We admire his loyalty, right? We admire his gratitude and his sense of honor. But all of it, it was all in service of a terrible, unjust cause. It forces us to ask ourselves, when does a virtue become a vice? There's no easy answer, and that, right there, is the tragic, timeless power of Karna's story.